In this video, I have explained various kinds of notations which we are going to use in an ER diagram, that is an entity relation diagram. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share this video with your friends, gain the knowledge and rule the world. Like the video, write the comments and subscribe to the channel. First symbol is a rectangle symbol that we use for the purpose of representing an entity. Entity is nothing but the real world object which is present. And for example, employee. Employee is an entity. How we are going to represent is within a rectangle we are going to write employee. Student. Student is also an entity. Within an rectangle we need to write student. So that is how we are going to represent an entity. Next one is weak entity, and that one we are going to represent within a double rectangle. Here the double rectangle has been used for the purpose of making a difference between the weak entity and the strong entity. Strong entity is nothing but which will be having its own key attribute for the purpose of identifying and tuple in an entity, whereas in case of a weak entity it will be not having its own key for the purpose of identifying. For that purpose we will be using a combination of key with the weak entity as well as with the primary key of another one entity, and those kind of entity is called as a weak entity, and weak entity we are going to represent by using a double rectangle. Here for example, dependent. Dependent is a weak entity. How we are going to represent is within the double rectangle we are going to write as dependent. Dependent is an entity. When we write within the double rectangle it means a weak entity. The next one is relationship. So relationship we use for the purpose of making to know the relationship between the entity, or to show the relationship between the entity we are going to use a symbol, and that symbol is a diamond symbol. So this diamond symbol we are going to use for the purpose of representing a relationship. For example, between employee and department, between employee and dependent, between department and project, like that there will be a relationship. So those relationship we are going to represent by using this symbol. That means an entities will be connected by using this diamond symbol, and within that diamond we are going to write the name of the relationship. For example, employee will be connected with the department. The relationship might be works for. It means an employee is working for. And even we can have a relationship from department to employee. Here if you write manager, manages, that means here the department to an employee has been connected as a manager. The next one is double diamond symbols. This one we use for the purpose of representing and identifying relationship. Here we are going to connect between entity and weak entity. As I already told what is an entity and what is a weak entity. When we have a relationship between entity and weak entity, then we are going to use this identifying relationship. Identifying relationship will be written by writing the name of a relationship within the double diamond symbol. And here for example, employee to dependent, in that case we are going to use this identifying relationship symbol, and within that one we are going to write as identifies. So first one is the attribute symbol. This one we use for the purpose of representing an attribute. An attribute is nothing but which will be specifying the characteristic of an entity. For example, if an employee is an entity, those characteristics are employee name, employee age, salary, last name, first name, date of birth, like that. These are the various characteristics and these are called as an attribute. And we are going to write the attribute within this symbol. We are going to write the name of the attribute. For example, F name within this symbol. Next one is key attribute, and that symbol is in this way. And here we are going to write the key attribute by just underlining the name of the attribute. Key attribute is nothing but, it is also an attribute, but it is used for the purpose of identifying a tuple in an entity. For that purpose, we are going to just underline that particular attribute. The next one symbol is for multi-valued attribute. So it is just another one oval. That is a double oval shape we are going to write with an arrow mark, solid line arrow mark. So this one we use for the purpose of a multi-valued attribute. That means an attribute which will be having multiple values. And next one we use for the purpose of composite attribute. And next one we use for a derived attribute. Composite attribute in the sense an attribute will be consisting of another attributes. Derived attribute in the sense an attribute which has been derived from another attribute. In those cases which will be using these symbols. The first one represents a total participation of E2 in R. That means an entity E2 is having a total participation of an relationship R with the entity E1. That means each of the entities which are present in E2 should be identified or should be related with at least one of the entity in E1. Then we say that there is a total participation of E2 in a relationship R with E1. Means each of the entity which are present in E2 should be related to at least one entity in an entity E1 with a relationship R. Next one, the diagram which indicates the cardinality ratio of 1:n for an relationship R from E1 to E2. That means E1 is an entity and E2 is an entity, whereas R is a relationship between E1 and E2. Here, at least one entity will be having a connection with another entity. In what way? 1:n. 1:n in the sense one entity in E1 can be related to many entities with E2. One entity in E1 can be related to many entities in E2. Then third one is a structural constant minimum, max of participation of E in R. That means here the entity E can have a relationship with another entity with a relationship R by having a structural constraint of min, max. That means the minimum number of entities which it can participate in a relationship and the maximum number of entities which it can participate in a relationship. So these are with respect to an ER diagram notations which we are going to use while drawing an ER diagram for any of the databases. In an examination, they will be asking write the ER diagram notations for 10 marks. Means you need to write all these ER diagram notation with the meaning. Explanation is not needed, just you need to write the diagrams along with the meaning. And even in some cases they will ask draw the ER diagram for employee database, draw the ER diagram for company database, airline database, hospital management, like that. Then you need to consider the whole database, and using these notations you need to draw a complete picture of using these symbols. You need to draw a complete picture, and that complete picture is called as an ER diagram. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, gain the knowledge and rule the world. Share this video with your friends.